Welcome to another edition of Jenny with Coffee. Today's question is escrow with solar. So today I have brought in the escrow expert, Ashley Wickard from Chicago Title, to weigh in on some of our agents' challenges.
Yes.
So we will start off first with question one that I have for Ashley is disclosing solar.
Yes. So solar is often something that gets overlooked in the escrow transaction or when they're listing a property. So basically, we can't always see what's on top of a roof, right? Sometimes we can see solar panels, sometimes we can't. Sellers often fail to let people know about solar. So a lot of times it's important for agents to say, hey, is there anything that we should know about with solar? Do you own it outright? Do you have a lease? Do you have any of your documents? We want to make sure that the agents are having these types of conversations with their sellers.
One other thing I missed to add before we got started on the first question is, why did you feel that this was the hot topic to discuss today? Why is solar so big right now?
Yeah, solar, especially, obviously we live in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is extremely sunny. A lot of people and a lot of homes have solar now. It wasn't as prevalent in the previous years, but now it's kind of a hot commodity and it's something that comes up on a regular basis for our escrow transactions. So it's really important, again, just to kind of reiterate back to have those conversations and make sure that, we're having those conversations. So when we get to escrow, and they're looking at their prelim and they're like, what's this? This whole seller never said anything. So it's just a regular thing that's happening now.
So recently my phone has been ringing and the number one question that they're asking is, how do I know if the solar is rented or is it owned? They honestly, they don't know where to start. So Ashley, can you tell us a little bit about how they find out?
Right. So the seller is, again, going to be the main person. The seller needs to be aware of what they purchased too, because nowadays what we're getting is the seller doesn't realize what exactly they have. They think that just because they bought it with a loan that they own the panels outright, and that's not the case. They may have bought it, but they don't, they haven't paid that $40,000 loan off yet. So that's something that the buyer will end up either having to inherit or the seller is going to have to pay it off. And I actually learned that the hard way. This is something that, we had to deal with and we ended up having to pay for because, my other half didn't know and I did, and I knew the difference. But primarily, again, it's the seller, and it's the seller making phone calls to the solar company just to verify that information so they can be outright and forthcoming with it, because a lot of times buyers won't be able to take care of that. They won't be able to qualify if they find out that there's a $40,000 loan that they also have to assume. So
true. And just in my case, I had a personal refinance recently, and I had to do some digging, and they needed the contract, and I wasn't even aware I had a contract on my solar. So this is something as important that everyone knows the best practices for solar. So the next question is, you had mentioned by looking at the prelim, it is stating some information regarding the solar. Tell us about that.
So the prelim will always have a section on there, and it'll be labeled like UCC, something with UCC. And what that is that's basically, and it'll have like the name of the lender for the UCC. So it'll either say like Loan Pal or Tesla or something like that. Those are the common signs that there's a solar on your prelim. So, and it'll be on any title company. It doesn't matter if it's Chicago Title, Lawyers Title, anybody like that. It'll always be listed as a UCC. Now, there are times now that we've been coming where the sellers, the loan company, they're not filing a UCC like normal. So you could have solar, you could have a debt for the solar, but the UCC is not showing.
Another thing during my transaction is that there were so many refinances being completed last year of all of 2020, and the loans were just being delayed, and we had already ordered our demand for the solar, and there was a delay, and we are responsible to keep paying the demand fee. It is a fee that we have to have awareness of, so we all need to spread the news that this is common, and this is what happens when you engage in a real estate transaction. Whether you're selling or buying, these are things that happen.
And it's even going to be just to kind of play off that, like where it's becoming such an issue now because nobody wants to pay for those fees. Like in a buyer-seller transaction, obviously refinance is a little bit different, but buyer-seller, like the buyer doesn't want to pay for the transfer fee. It's $300. The seller doesn't want to pay for the transfer fee because they're already having to pay for the solar now that they weren't aware of. So it's definitely something that these conversations need to be happening, and they have to take place if the seller has a solar. Like it's just... like reach out to us and we'll help you.
and lastly, when the escrow closes with a solar lien, you wanted to discuss that.
So a lot of times solar can be thought of like a utility. So with your trash, your sewer, title doesn't transfer any of that. That's not something that we handle. All we do is we pay it, and that's it. We just want to make sure you have free and clear title, that there's not going to be any issues in the future for you. But that's the same with the solar. So as soon as everything, when the seller goes and calls their solar company and says, I'm selling my home, you know, I'm selling it to so-and-so, then the solar company will reach out to the buyer. The buyer will complete their little, you know, their agreement. And then from there, it's 100% the buyer and seller's responsibility. All we're doing is just making sure that whatever liens are on the property are being released. But we do get a lot of questions where buyers will come back and they're like, well, you didn't do this. Well, that's not what we do. So it is important for buyers to know that, you know, it becomes their responsibility once escrow closes.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Well, in the future, if you do have any solar questions, please reach out to your escrow team or myself. You know, we are here to support you. I want to thank you, Ashley, for taking time out of your day to be a very special guest on my little talk show that's weekly.
Yes.
So have a positive and productive rest of the week, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Bye.